Hi, Don McKinnon. Agree to disagree.
John Cochran, thank you for being with us again.
And John's got his opening volley.
My opening volley today I entitled, There Are Now Only Two Branches of Government. Now, the Constitution establishes three branches of government. We all know that. The executive, the legislative, and the judicial. But since President Obama was elected, only two branches of government have been working.
Oh, he's the first to do this.
The executive and the judicial.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought the judicial stole the election a few terms ago in
No,
Florida.
no, there was nothing about that. Now, stick to the subject here. Well, you
Okay.
can mention that when you get your turn.
It's the subject when it's a
The
Democrat.
legislative branch, AKA, otherwise known as Congress, has been rendered impotent by the polarizing politics of the Democratic
Well,
and the
the
Republican
executive is-
parties.
the executive
Would
is
you
the
agree with that?
No, the
You wouldn't
executive is the
agree with that.
president, it's not Congress.
Okay. I said the legislative branch, otherwise known as Congress.
That's true.
Okay. Has
We
been
agree.
rendered impotent. These differences have grown so extreme that they have given birth to the Tea Party,
Wow.
stymied Congress from passing any major legislation. Obamacare being the notable exception. When you think back over the Obama administration, that's been the key legislation. That's why they call the Health Care
Well,
Act
that, of course, and
Obamacare.
what they call the bailout.
Well,
might
yeah,
have-
the
that
bailout.
might have been important
The
a
bailout
little
was
bit.
throwing a lot of money around, that's for
Well,
sure.
no, but it-
People are having second thoughts about that. And it resulted,
Now that it's succeeded.
this problem has resulted in government shutdowns, as we know.
Mm.
Executive orders that thwart the Constitution.
Ooh.
And other changes designed to diminish the power of the Republican Party
And that was Obama.
and the
It-
conservative voice in society. I'm talking about this administration. Now, how can I make these assertions? I'm
Yes.
going to give you a few examples of
Okay.
each because I know you won't let me get away with those
Taking
things
notes now, go ahead.
without examples.
I want some examples if you don't mind.
I will give you examples.
Okay.
Many conservatives have been frustrated by the extremely liberal and progressive policies of the current administration.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, very liberal.
Yeah.
Okay, very progressive. The refusal of the Democratic Party in the White House to compromise on issues forced staunch conservatives
Ah,
to unite under the banner of the Tea Party. Would you agree with that?
no, but I think the Tea Party's about ready to go out for tea.
So we have a
Tea
lot
for
to
two.
disagree with here.
The Tea Party's going to be tea for two pretty soon.
Yeah,
There's only going to
okay.
be two people doing it.
Okay. Now, I'll submit to you that if this administration wasn't so liberal and so progressive, the Tea
Right.
Party never would have formed. Because if both parties were in reasonable reach of each other, as has been the case with most administrations, they wouldn't have had to have gotten together and formed. Now, excuse me. The refusal of the White House to compromise on any aspect of Obamacare resulted in both sides digging in and also resulted in filibusters and a government shutdown. That was the reason for the government shutdown. No compromise anywhere between these two parties. Now, you're getting the message here about the Congress and how impotent it is. The inability of Congress to rule on any meaningful legislation has been seized by the president to issue executive orders, which many believe to be unconstitutional, including
Now,
myself.
let me go back, though, and
And-
make sure the two branches are,
Yeah.
what?
The two branches that are functioning
Yeah.
are the executive and the
Executive?
judicial.
Oh, okay, the Congress doesn't function.
No,
Oh,
that's what
I
I'm
didn't
telling
know.
you here.
I'm glad I came here today.
That's what I'm telling you
Because
here.
my wife was
No,
asking me.
not
what's-
functioning at all.
And I'll go home, I'll tell
I'm
her.
trying to give you examples of that, Don. I just gave you some
You're
clear
doing
ones.
it to a fault.
Okay. Well, I'm not done. I'm going to do it to more
Oh,
of
my
a
God, there's
fault.
more.
There's more. So both sides dug in, and it did result in filibusters. Now, remember, the inability of
Yeah,
Congress
some
to
very famous people filibustered.
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about that too. Now, so his initial position on attacking Syria without consulting with Congress was an example of this. Now, you'll recall at the end he did consult with Congress. But at the beginning, he had no intention of
didn't
it.
do it, yeah.
Only when he found out it was going to be so unpopular did he decide, okay, I have to go to Congress. But he was ready to pull the trigger, no pun intended,
And the courts were in
okay,
his favor.
on the law without
They were in his favor
Congress.
because that's the other branch of government.
Without Congress. Well, I didn't say the courts were in his favor. The courts weren't really ruling on it at the time.
Oh.
The courts take laws and decide whether or not the actions of the other two branches are constitutional. Now, his initial position also changed many provisions of the Obamacare law, which should have been approved by Congress. In fact, remember, Obamacare is a law. When you pass a law, the president can't arbitrarily change the law. The law has to be properly changed in Congress. If there's a dispute between the two branches of government, then again it goes to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court revolves it. But Obama's changed over half a dozen provisions within Obamacare already. He's delayed things. He's changed the meaning of things. He's jumped all over the place. In other words, essentially changing the law. He doesn't have the authority to do that. He's thwarting the Constitution. So there's another example. Now, there are also two prominent examples of the administration changing the rules to favor the majority party, which just happens to be Democrat at the moment, as you know, Don.
Not in the House of Representatives.
No, but in the Senate.
Oh, we're only. What happened to the House of Reps?
Well, the House of Reps is out there.
Okay.
But this
And
particular issue...
who's the majority in the House of Reps?
The Republican.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. First, though, the IRS has tightened the rules regarding tax breaks for 501c4 companies. You remember the scandal? You might recall the recent scandal which established that the IRS was approving progressive companies for tax benefits while letting conservative company applications linger with no action. There was a lot of that all over the press. The idea being that the influence was they didn't want the conservative companies to get the same tax benefits
Would
treatment.
that be like delaying the appointment of judges because they're not in your party?
I'm glad you brought that up because I am
know,
going
you
to
got
talk about that
I know you were.
in a minute.
You're
I'm
welcome.
glad you brought that up.
You're welcome.
That's exactly one of the problems right now.
Oh, no
Because
judges.
it falls
You didn't
within
say,
the
"Here
it
come the
falls
judge."
within
No.
the filibuster rules.
Ah.
It's been the case with all of the administrations, by the way, that opposing parties often tried to stop judges from being elected.
You mean Republicans might do that?
Yeah, Republicans might do that, absolutely. That's not the issue, though.
Oh, it isn't
The issue is the filibuster, and I'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah, that's.
The new rules allow the IRS to apply stricter standards. They just changed the rules. To apply
To the
strict...
filibuster.
No. Well, let me get through this first, and then I'll get to the filibuster. This is for the 401c companies that want... 501c companies, excuse me, that want to get tax benefits based upon their activities. The rules that they changed is they didn't like the fact that so many companies were getting these benefits.
Who? Who didn't like it?
The IRS, the administration
all
didn't
right.
like it. The IRS
the
didn't like it.
IRS.
Yeah, they don't like it.
Are they all
Well, they're part
Democrats?
of the administration, are they
Yeah?
not?
Oh.
Yeah, branch of government, I think it's, you know.
It's
I
not
think,
the IRS. They don't.
I
They
think
don't
it's a
lay off all
division
the.
of government.
They don't lay off all the IRS people when a new party takes the White
no,
House.
nobody's
Their
laid off.
career. The IRS
Not
is
only
like
can't-
you,
not
John.
only don't they
They're
lay off
career
the-
people.
Not only don't they lay off the IRS people, they can't even find anybody accountable for what went wrong. That's been the case in every single scandal in this administration.
You mean like waterboarding and things like that?
No, waterboarding I'm totally in favor of, but
That's okay.
that's a topic for another day, exactly. If you're a non-swimmer, you're scared to death of waterboarding. If you swim a lot, you're not as scared.
Is that what it is?
Exactly.
I didn't know
But
that.
let me tell you this. Let's get off the waterboarding. I'm bringing you back on subject here. I'm bringing you back on subject here.
Oh, okay.
And the new rules say, you know what? Essentially, what these rules say in the first place is that if you are an organization and you also participate somewhat in political activity, but let's say that you want to become tax exempt because you do mostly tax exempt type functions and work, that you are limited in the amount of political activity that you can engage in. Now, the definition of that wasn't totally clear before they just changed the rules. And so, there was a fair amount of discretion on the part of the IRS to decide who can have the status and who can't have the status.
Yeah, and there was a little to do about that.
There was more than a little to do.
whole
There
bunch
was
of
more
to-do?
than 100 conservative companies that never got their applications through. They never decided on them. The total number of Democratic companies over that same
And that
period
wasn't right.
was 6. So the influence is definitely there. So now the IRS says, all right, we're going to make these rules stricter. They're going to bring it down and more clearly define how much political activity you're going to have. Since the rules are stricter, and since those 100-plus companies were never dealt with originally under the old rules, they're going to look at them under the new rules, and that is going to produce less conservative approvals under the new rules than would have been the case under the old rules. So in a way, they're able to manipulate that anyway, because now they won't meet the conditions of the new rules. Little kind of bait and switch there.
Is the Tea Party nonprofit and therefore it doesn't pay taxes?
I don't know. I don't know that.
It's kind of important.
Yeah, I don't know what the situation is there.
Well,
I would say probably not, because they're totally political, aren't they?
Whoa, next show I'm going to do a little research. I'm
Yeah,
going to
do a little
Google. I'm going to Google the
All
Tea
right, Google
Party.
it. Now, the second example of a rule
Master
change,
Google.
and this is where we get back into your issue.
Okay.
The second example of a rule change to favor the party in control, which just happens to be what?
The Republicans in the Congress.
No, the Democrats. I'm talking about the Senate.
Oh, it's all I didn't win.
I'm talking about the
Let me write
Senate.
this
I
down.
haven't
In
talked
other words,
about.
the problem is the Senate and the president.
Yes.
The Republican Congress has absolutely nothing going for it.
No, the Republican Congress hasn't had anything going for it, obviously.
I didn't know.
Have they been able to pass anything? Have they been able to modify anything?
Why do you criticize those
Have
poor
they had
Republican
a
people?
voice in anything, Don? Have
Yes.
they been able to speak
You
up
know,
on anything?
Yeah, but do you know why?
No.
Well, I'll tell you why.
Okay.
It's because they're afraid of the Tea Party up until last week. And now they're taking on the Tea Party because they realize they're not going to get reelected if they don't do something about those people in the Tea
I'd
Party.
like to have a dime for every time I heard Harry Reid say, we're not going to negotiate. Oh, we're not going to change this, or we're not going to change that. This is the way it's going to be.
You'd have probably 3 or 4 dimes.
Let's look at this filibuster thing,
Uh-oh.
okay? Filibuster rules allow the minority party in the Senate
Yeah.
to delay a vote required to pass any bill by keeping the debate open and not letting the issue come to a vote. Now, I say that because it's important that the public all understand what a filibuster is. You hear about it quite a bit.
Yeah,
But a lot of times it's, what is that? What does that mean? Now, the rules required, this is the filibuster rules, that at least 60 votes were necessary to allow the ruling party, in this case, what party are we talking about? In the Senate. In the Senate.
You're not going to give me that. Oh, that would be the Democrats.
That would be the Democrat. To allow the ruling party to stop the filibuster and allow a vote.
Now, but didn't they change that?
That's
Those
what we're going to talk about.
Democrats
That's
changed.
Yeah, so nasty people.
Yeah, nasty word.
Watch
for that.
this now.
Democracy. They go, oh, no.
These rules prevented, no, it's not democracy.
Oh,
These rules prevented the ruling party from dominating the Senate vote on a partisan simple majority of 51 votes. Now, over the last 200 years, no party in control has dared to change the 60-vote requirement of the filibuster.
Until
In the realizing why? Realizing its importance to the intended balance of power concept. Although many have threatened to do so. We've heard the threats of filibusters on both sides, the Democrats and the Republicans.
but the Democrats were successful.
But the Democrats finally did it after
succeeded.
200 years.
Yeah, they know what they're doing.
Now, the serious nature of the power shift that this causes,
Filibuster.
yes, is expressed in the action okay, where filibuster rules, or killing the filibuster rules, are ominously known as the nuclear option.
Ooh,
The nuclear option is not my phrase.
no.
The nuclear option is the phrase used by Congress, by the administration. In other words, they feel that that is so dire a measure
Filibuster.
because changing the rules against
Changing the rule on
filibuster.
the filibuster.
Yeah. In other words, if the party says, I don't want to have 60 votes, I want a simple majority of 51 votes. Well, if they're the party in office, they could push through every single piece of business that is done. And knowing that, once again, we had some smart people originate our laws here
Yep.
in the past,
Yeah.
realizing that they didn't want one party to rule the United States. They wanted some influence from even the minority party. How do you do that? You say, well, if you only got a majority of one vote, then the people must have thought that the minority party was pretty good too. So it's not fair to let, on the basis of one vote, one party with one opinion, just have everything they want and the minority party not have every representation. That was the reason for the 60 votes. They were going to need some of the minority party to be able to pass their rules and regulations, not just the majority. So, that was so serious again, balance of power. Remember what I started out with, 2 branches of government here? I'm going to bring this to a nice close so you'll see exactly
You
what
got
I
a
meant.
finale on this. This,
I have a
Judge, this
finale.
isn't a filibuster you're doing now.
It's partly a filibuster. Now, recently the nuclear option was exercised by Harry Reid and the Democratic
Good
Senate.
man. Harry Reid, very shy, introvert,
Yes,
but
he
a very
is.
nice man.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
Pelosi. Very nice.
For now, the change in the filibuster rules only apply to president's judicial appointments. That's what you mentioned a moment ago. When
That's
you,
right.
You jumped the gun on me.
Well, because we
and
have
you
the-
were talking
we
about
have a-
judicial announcements and
Yeah.
not allowing the judges
We don't have any judges?
to be appointed.
Yeah, we don't have judges
So,
because they won't appoint them.
obviously, the Democrats felt the same way you did.
Yeah.
And rather than having a discussion about it, the different philosophies, they just said, we're going to change the filibuster rules so they cannot stop the votes for the appointments of the
Well, they
president.
got to get it out of a committee, and that's where the problem
Yeah.
is with judges.
Yeah,
You know,
but-
appointing of judges. It
but
isn't.
the-
You don't filibuster to stop a judge.
Yeah, they've filibustered in the past to stop a judge.
Who has? When is that? There's only been 2 major filibusters in the last
Yeah.
10 years.
Well, wherever it is, whether it's in the committee or wherever it is, they filibuster and they stop the appointment. How have they been able to stop the appointment of all of the judges so far? I think there's like 8 of them or more that have been proffered
Yeah.
by Obama, and they haven't accepted any of them. This will stop that. This will allow the ruling party in the Senate, which is,
In the Senate now?
yes,
Divide the 2, carry the 4.
okay.
Democrat.
Will allow the Democrats again to be able to pick all of the judges. Now, that's only for appointing judges. That's not for passing laws.
Right.
Filibuster rules still apply. Okay? But, that is a slippery slope. Because once you start, now it just applies for the judges. Okay? But once you do that, I believe
And
it'll
they did it.
yeah, exactly. It'll inevitably be used for passing laws, budgets, and other legislative issues. Okay? So, I'm stopping my filibuster. My conclusion from all
You
this,
want a glass of water?
I might need one. Since only 2 of our 3 branches of government are working, and I think I just presented a good case as to why the
And again,
Congress
I'm
is
trying-
not
The
working.
Congress is not working. All those hard-working Republicans that go to work every day, they're not working.
No, they're not accomplishing anything.
Bunch of dope.
I said the process
Enough
isn't
to make you
working.
wonder.
It's not working. The Congress isn't working. I'm not saying they're not going to work. I'm saying what they're supposed to do is not working. Okay, our balance of powers is out of whack, which also perverts our Constitution.
But the group that isn't working in the Senate is controlled by the Democrats, but there's a group of people called
Right.
the House of Representatives.
Yeah.
That's controlled by
I'm
the
saying the
2-0
Congress now.
Republicans, huh?
I'm saying the Congress. I'm including the House and the Senate.
Nobody's working. No
Congress.
wonder people don't like them. They're
The
very
legislative
low.
branch.
John,
I know that.
Very low.
I know that.
You would think.
The legislative branches are
You
working.
would
So,
think they play for the Yankees.
so here's my conclusion.
Okay.
Okay, now I think I've supported my point about two
As
branches
Kurt Gowdy
working.
would say, you're rounding third.
I'm going to
heading
say
home.
this again because I think it's
Okay.
important.
Oh, all right.
I'm going to repeat this. Our balance of powers is out of whack,
Yeah. Two
which
out of the
per-
three are only working.
which perverts our Constitution. The Constitution relied on three branches of government to be able to, one
And
to
those
keep
guys
the
that go
other
to
in
work
check.
every day, they think they're doing something, but they're not.
And if one, they know they're not doing anything. Keeps in check. Now, they're trying so hard to accomplish something that they just passed this budget, as you know, for the
They
first
did,
time.
yes, they
in
did what they
years.
call compromise.
Yeah, it's not even a budget.
Well, you should
It's-
be
it's
happy
a-
they discontinued unemployment after 26.
Yeah, well, you know what?
They should be
Give me
happy.
that can, put it right in front of me, because I want to kick it down the road a little more.
Why, what,
'Cause
what
that's all
else
the
do you-
budget does. The budget doesn't accomplish much
That's
of
all
anything for
budgets
anybody.
do. That's what they do. They kick the can down the road.
Well, exactly, and they're doing it again. Now, the good thing is, at least they're doing something. And the good thing
Are you ready to accept them back into the fold?
No, absolutely not. You got to do a lot more
Well, at
than
least
that.
they kicked the can down the road.
So, in my view, the answer to this threat to our system
you got a
is
solution.
I always have solutions.
Sometimes
Do
you
you
don't.
want to guess? Do you want to guess?
I couldn't guess because
All right, how about
now,
this? I'll give you a big heated tip here.
I have the balance of power in the Senate turned towards what you call your Republican Party. That
No.
would do it. No?
Balance of power shouldn't turn towards any party
Well, it has to go
to the
towards somebody.
extent,
Yeah.
to the extent
Yeah.
that it makes governing ineffective.
And I'm ready
Okay,
to
what
hear
if I told you there's a fourth branch of government?
the press.
Not a bad thought,
Thank you, John.
but that's not right.
You mean I did pretty good, but I'm wrong.
That's not right.
That
The
happened.
fourth
That's why
branch of government is the American
if
people.
I were in college, I'd be on probation. The what?
The American people. That's the fourth branch of government. That's the ultimate balance. That's the constitutional balance. That's everything. So, what do I say to the American people? You are the fourth branch of government.
Yes.
We need you in
Yes.
this very, very important time.
Yeah.
So, my advice is to get informed as an American,
Some of them will.
get involved
Some of them will.
as an American,
Yeah.
and vote.
You did all that to say vote?
I did all
That was worth it, though, John.
Did all
If
that.
you can get everybody to vote, boy, that would be great.
Well, I think it's important that at least we get more people to vote. I don't
I
know if
w-
we'll
I
ever
w-
get. We'll never get everybody to vote.
No, you don't. No.
I think that
You know, when
if God came down from heaven and ran for something, I don't think everybody would vote. Well, I know they would. So, you know,
Boy, you've gone awry on this now. You brought God into this thing.
yeah, I'm going
I'll
to
be
bring them in
darned.
again
I'll
in
be
a few
gone darned.
instances.
Huh?
I'm going to bring them in again in a few instances here, but go ahead. Now,
Well,
so
let me-
that's the
Well, let me
main,
just
major
talk about
topic.
filibusters for a minute.
Go ahead.
Filibusters basically are, in a way, to prevent certain types of legislation. As a rule, the filibusters that have occurred, the last two, both were in. Now, what about this new guy from Texas that's
Yeah.
going on? Is he a senator or a rep? I'm not even sure myself.
No, he's a senator.
Okay, and then the other guy whose father, he has to rent his father's apartment when he comes there. He's a senator from Kentucky, I believe.
Yeah, right. I think I know who you mean, yeah.
Yeah, well, he had a filibuster. So we had two filibusters.
Names escape me at
Yeah,
the
but
moment.
we had a filibuster from a guy
Yeah.
who's considered a member of your group,
Right.
a libertarian, which means
Yes.
he really is neither Republican nor a Democrat.
Well, that was a while back. That was Rand Paul.
and he's
And
a
he is a
libertarian.
libertarian.
Yes.
And he is a member of my group. yeah.
And so when he was speaking basically to shut government down, not to prevent a vote,
Right.
not to prevent government from going on legislation. It was just he was just proving he could do it. What these guys do when they do it, here's one of the problems with the current breed that's coming along. When they perform a filibuster, suddenly they become a presidential candidate. They're saying this guy, Ron Paul, who is, a nice little guy, and I'm sure he's good to his mother and father, but he doesn't have any structure. He's not coming from anywhere. Then the other guy, I must admit, I've always said the two states that really get things done politically are Massachusetts and Texas.
Texas
and then
definitely
the
does.
two states that have
We've
crime,
had a few
and
presidents
so
from Texas, haven't we?
yes, we have.
Yeah.
It's a great state
And I think
because it
we'll
was an
continue to.
independent nation. That's the reason Texas feels that way. And people from Massachusetts always think they're independent. That's why you and I are talking the way we talk. But the other guy comes from Texas, and the conservative groups think he's wonderful.
The
and
Tea Party groups in particular.
And
Because
John,
he's to the right. The reason why he
but his
let's
filibuster was like a joke, though.
not to me.
Oh, okay.
Not to me. Now that's from your view as a Democrat, and I can understand that. From my view, I thought he did a wonderful job. I was proud of him. To come out there for the American people and put
Okay.
everything on the line. I just want to show you the other
No, but
view
I want
here.
you to answer a question when you're done with
Because
your
this
filibuster.
is
Go
agree
ahead.
to disagree.
All right.
Okay?
All right, agree.
Agree to disagree.
Yes.
I'd say I take the view that he came out there and tried to prevent what he thought would be a tragic mistake for the United States, something so overwhelming that it actually pushed him out there to try to stop it in concert with his beliefs, his strong beliefs, that this would damage the America for good. He feels that way. And so I give him much credit for doing what he did. Now, he could have killed his future as a presidential candidate because a lot of people will think of him as you do thinking he's a
What you call
wild
your basic-
renegade.
well, I
But
mean, in polite terms,
there are
he's
differences of
he's
view.
called in
See,
my
I don't-
group a wacko.
I don't think anybody wants to do a filibuster just to close the government. And some filibusters
No,
don't
we wanted to have
involve
a
closing the
filibuster so you begin to talk about him as a presidential candidate. Now, let me just say,
well, and he will
Donald
be.
Trump, you know Donald
Yeah,
Trump?
very well.
Oh, I didn't know if you know.
We invest together.
I know. Donald Trump took on Obama saying that he couldn't prove he was a citizen of the United States, so
Yes.
therefore, all right.
Yeah.
And that was okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
Well, he's not a political figure, Donald
who?
Trump.
Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And he's trying to be, by the way.
Yeah.
We're talking about
Yeah.
running him for governor. Yeah. And now along comes this guy from Texas, talking all, walking around like a presidential candidate. What state was he born in, do you know? Well, some people, the old timers, think Canada's a state.
Oh,
He was born in Canada. Now, one of his parents is Canadian, the other's American, and so somehow or other, being born in Canada with one of his parents as an
now,
American.
can a Canadian-born person be president of the United
No,
States?
of course not.
Okay, then if a Canadian president can't be if the Canadian-born person
No.
can't be president of the United States, then it's obvious if he was born in Canada,
Yes.
that he would have already been dismissed from running for president, and he
Wouldn't you
hasn't.
and why is that?
People are talking about him for president.
I'm
It's like
saying
the
I want to
Bertha thing with-
hear Donald Trump's excuse that it's okay for this guy to be born in Canada, but it wasn't okay.
But he wasn't born in Canada.
Oh, yes, that's where he was born.
Then how can he be president?
He isn't going to be president because he was
Well,
born
why
in
is
Canada.
everybody talking him as a great candidate
Because
for
people
president?
like people that are wacky. It gets
Yeah,
them something
but
to talk about in the off
If
season.
they know he was
Yeah.
born in Canada, why hasn't the press just come out and said he doesn't qualify for
Because the
president?
press would love to have this guy because he's easy pickings. John, he is so easy. Everybody's having a good time
He has a
with him.
very conservative and right-wing perspective,
And therefore,
Republican perspective.
He's a wacko.
Therefore, he's a wacko.
say
See,
that.
that's
I
what
al-
you.
I
That's
almost-
what you Democrats do
apologize.
real well. You always try to bring down the opposing views of whether it's the
Well,
Republicans
some are easier
or
than
whether
others.
it's a libertarian.
Democrats have had a few like him, but
A
this
few.
guy- maybe two.
Right now? One is minority leader of the House and the other one's the leader of
they're
the Senate.
both wonderful people and good to their friends
right.
and neighbors.
Okay.
Okay, no.
Sure.
Okay,
Do you
no, but-
want to get to look
Well,
at this?
I just want to say
your
though
half
that there
hour,
are
10 minutes
there
for
are
me, 20
there are
minutes for you.
there are three branches of government, and I do believe that the Congress meets as best they can, and
They
I
haven't
would-
done anything.
because of the
Gridlock.
No, no. Tea Party.
Oh, no.
The Tea Party has shut them down. The
Party
Tea
is
Party
one
got
party.
them to sign
Have
a
you
pledge.
seen how the leader of the House, Boehner, has gone after the Tea Party himself?
Finally.
Yeah. Well, he's gone after them, and he told them, hey,
When did
this
he do?
budget
When
thing
did he
is a
start
good
to
thing.
do this? As of this week, he started to do it because they're driving him loony.
Well, let me
because
tell
he
you-
can't get his job done because they don't believe in government.
Here's the
effective.
problem.
By the way,
Let's be-
that budget was very conservative, the one they signed. When
No.
you discontinue
What,
unemployment,
this budget?
discontinue unemployment,
No, it wasn't very conservative. I think both sides got a little bit, and neither side got much, is what it comes down
call
to.
that
And by
compromise.
the way, we're going to face the death limit. Yeah, it probably is a death limit. The debt limit again fairly shortly, and we're going to start this stuff all over again. I give credit to both. I give credit to the Senate representative and the House representative for passing this budget. I commend both of them for bending way over.
which means you're not a member of
because
the Tea Party.
They're polarized
But the
like
Tea
this.
Party thinks it's terrible, and they think that the guys
Like
from
I
the
said, you
Republican-
can thank your party and your administration for establishing the Tea Party.
I go back
If
to
they weren't so far over to the on the curve,
Yeah.
to the left, to liberalism, and being way to the side on Democrats, the Tea Party never would have arisen. You'd have a lot of people. You'd have a lot of Republicans and conservatives, running around and being grumpy and everything, saying, "Oh,
That-
here-
no, that's the
here-
definition of a
wait-
Republican.
Wait a minute. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
grumpy.
No, they'd be grumpy because they'd say, here he is, the president's doing this again,
Yeah.
and they're passing this and they're passing that, and they'd be
Grumpy,
grumpy.
be
But
grumpy.
they wouldn't actually coalesce and form a group because they were so mad and so upset that they've gone so extreme. That's the reason for the Tea Party. So thank the Democrats for forming the Tea Party.
Well, I do thank the Democrats for forming the Tea Party because the Tea Party is going to cost the Republicans
There
the next
you-
presidential
there
election.
you
we
have-
can put up Willie Lump Lump,
You know what?
and he's going to be elected.
There, you won't get any argument from me
Thank you, John.
on that.
Because the
I
Tea Party
agree.
has destroyed the Republican Party.
Well, it hasn't yet, but
But
could.
it is going to.
Well, it's fractious.
Yeah.
And therefore, I totally agree with you. I mean, not only do you have a heavy candidate that's almost been bequeathed with the title of presidency
Well, I
already,
never believe that.
already,
Yeah.
but you get this two-faction issue here, and then you've got the third faction coming out of the wall again in the form of Rand Paul and the Libertarians.
He's cute.
So how do
He's very
you
cute.
get? Yeah, I agree, I'm agreeing with you.
He's
I'm
a
saying-
jockey at Rockingham Park. He was a jockey at Rockingham. I didn't know if you knew that.
You stop. Okay, what's next?
I'm gonna say
we run
something
out
that
of
you
time.
and I have been trying to talk about for over a month now.
What is it?
And I'm going to say to you something which you really enjoy hearing from me.
Okay,
I made
good.
a mistake.
You did?
Well, I know that's hard to believe.
Oh, my
but
God.
I did
Wait a
it.
minute. Wait, should we get this on tape? Oh, it is on tape. Okay, go ahead.
I met Elizabeth Warren
Yeah.
down in the city of Taunton, and I said to myself, I'm not hearing any substance from this person, though.
Oh, boy.
And so even though I was going to vote for her, because if you think Elizabeth Warren didn't show substance, you got to listen to Brownie. But anyway,
Wait a minute. You were going to vote for her before you knew whether she
no, I
showed
knew
any
she.
substance?
Oh, hey, do you realize how many of these? How about the last guy that got elected? No, most of these candidates don't have substance because they've
Okay,
been.
but you were going to vote for her.
I never. I was going. I did vote for her.
Now you're not going to vote for her.
Oh yes.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm merely saying that I was wrong in saying that she was what I considered mediocre. I considered her a candidate that didn't have substance.
Oh,
And what I'm saying, and I
Okay.
couldn't. Now, Brown, good luck to him and his family for doing as well as they have. These were people, he owned a little insurance agent. Once in a while, he actually went to work. He sat what they call in the back bench when he was
Yeah.
in the state level. Never sponsored any legislation in over 10 years, sponsored nothing. And because politics is timing, he got the nomination for the Senate. Then he ran against someone who didn't know how to run. There's two things
Right.
that happen in an election. So once in a while you're elected, and once in a while a person gives you reason not to vote for them, and that happened to the Democratic Coakley at that time, and so he became a senator. They're actually talking about him as a presidential candidate now, which shows people still have a sense of humor.
Well, you know,
I think that's important that people get.
There was talk that he was going to move to New Hampshire.
And there is still talk. He is
and
in New
that
Hampshire.
he would continue his political career
well, he
there.
lives in New Hampshire.
And don't forget,
Yes.
he not only beat the candidates you're referring to,
Yes, he did.
but he ran as an independent.
Well, he was a Republican. He didn't run as
Well,
an
he
independent.
ran as, with an independent policy. That's what he stated
and-
over and
and
over
I
again.
will say
and
this,
yet Massachusetts
You know,
elected
once
him.
in a while, I'm going to tell you this, John, because I know you can keep a secret. Once in a while, the
Secret?
Republicans, yeah,
All right, go ahead. Wait a minute, go ahead.
those 25 people, once in a while, the Republicans pull something off. Now, when they got Brown elected to the Senate, they cushioned him so that he didn't do anything really radical in the short time he was in, filling out the term of Ted Kennedy. And so, therefore, when he came to run for election, or you could call it re-election, he was standing pretty clean because the Republicans cushioned him. They made sure he wasn't controversial. But this Elizabeth Warren whipped him. And then when she went to Congress, I thought, she's going to sit there and not do much. I will say this about Elizabeth Warren. I was wrong. She has more substance in a short period of time. She's hardly got her jacket off, and already there was a writer from one of these independent papers.
Yeah.
There are a few left. And he
You know
said the
many.
problem, I know, he said the problem with the Congress is, as you may adhere to, because you are a number person, you understand numbers. And he said the problem with the Congress is they keep electing these people who have no knowledge of the numbers. And the guy said, this is an interview on the Fox network, and the guy said to him, well, is there anybody in the Congress who understands the numbers? And the guy said, Elizabeth Warren. And I said, where did this come from that Elizabeth Warren suddenly understood this?
I heard that.
Now they're beginning to talk about her as a
That's
presidential candidate.
By the
Now,
way, she's turned that down
I hope so.
officially.
I hope so. And the reason is, I think she's doing such a good job in the Senate
I
that
was
she
I
should
was
stay where
shocked.
she is.
I was shocked to hear that they were considering her
Yeah,
as a presidential candidate
Yes.
already.
but let me tell you
Now,
why.
the reason was not
Yeah.
because I had anything against her
no, I
necessarily,
know,
but
I
I
know.
wasn't keeping track of what she was accomplishing.
Absolutely.
And apparently she's been accomplishing a lot, or people wouldn't start talking that, hey, you should be a presidential candidate.
One thing that I think she is that I'm not particularly happy about that portion of it. The Republicans have the Tea Party, which is this crazy group. And the Democrats have the ultra-liberal, which is also a crazy group. And the two of them together really should go out to lunch and then have a food fight. But the liberals, and even though I like Elizabeth Warren, I think she's doing a wonderful job, and I made a mistake. I think she plays to the ultra-liberal, and I think they're afraid that Clinton will come in as a middle-of-the-roader, because you remember that the Democrats that are left from the South are very conservative, as was Bill Clinton was a conservative middle-of-the-roader. And so when she comes in, she will be a middle-of-the-roader. So I think, and I haven't done any research on this, I'm just looking at it, I think the liberal Democrats are pushing Elizabeth Warren to run because she's a liberal to this left group, I'm
Yeah.
sorry to say, and she's brilliant. I mean, this lady came from nowhere, and she was a leading consumer advocate, I will say that. And so now she's walking where she has to deny she wants to be president of the United States. John, I don't admit it often. I was incorrect on Elizabeth Warren. She is one brilliant politician and coming from basically nowhere. So that's
So-
my Elizabeth Warren
Okay.
story, and I'm sticking to it. I've always been for Clinton, husband and wife.
Well, if they ran against each other, who would you vote for?
Oh, Clinton.
You would.
I'm for Clinton originally. I was for. Now you talk about Obama. Clinton would have been such a better president than Obama.
Well, it's difficult to see that most anybody wouldn't have been a better president. So
I knew I'd
I
get
don't know
you.
if that's
I,
high praise
no, no,
or
no,
not.
no. That was easy. That was a softball.
Yeah, it
there was
was.
a guy was Ted Williams. He used to pitch what's called the ephus pitch, and it went up in the air. And you imagine to Ted Williams, and then the ball would come down. You know, it was like they called it an ephus pitch. You know,
Never heard that.
and Williams would hit it up in the air, and it would go out in the, it would be a home run. So, but nonetheless,
So that's your call.
You're
on-
welcome. You're welcome, John. I
on
gave you a
Ms.
softball.
Warren.
I gave you an ephus pitch.
Okay, well, thank you. I'll try to return the favor.
No, you won't.
How about,
You
let me
will
ask you
not.
something.
Okay.
What do you think about this issue with Snowden? You know how they're discussing amnesty for Snowden?
Did you hear the
right now?
news today?
Bringing him
before we
back.
came in? Did you hear about it?
No.
A federal judge ruled that the tapping of lines
Right.
exposed by Snowden
Yes.
is unconstitutional, which would make Snowden
A traitor.
a whistleblower.
A whistleblower.
Yeah, a
Oh,
whistleblower.
oh.
Because what
Okay.
he said
You're
was
saying that
not
the organization is acting.
what
Against-
the
okay.
courts are saying, which you are for the court now. That's one of
Yeah.
the two things you believe in.
Yes.
The courts say that Snowden, in releasing this information on tapping of people's phone, like yours and mine, that is
Which, by the way, has turned out to be true.
what?
Do you remember in the beginning when the NSA was saying, oh, they just gather
Yeah.
phone numbers in bulk, they don't even know anything about them? Well, that's now been disproven, and not only that, the lies were so blatant, now it's pretty
So what
clear
he
that they
exposed,
listen to your
though,
calls,
but you-
they read your email,
Yeah.
they do everything else.
So
to
do you
get
say that
information.
Mr. Snowden was correct in letting that information out?
I think that, yeah.
If what he,
I have mixed feelings about it because of what happened.
all
I
right.
feel the loss of
no,
the
but
information.
a court, now they'll appeal it,
Yeah.
but a court of high, right below the Supreme Court,
Right.
has ruled that Mr. Snowden is a whistleblower,
Which
not
means he
a
can't
traitor.
be prosecuted?
Oh, whistleblowers are always prosecuted, but it means constitutionally he was correct in releasing that information. If you are working for the government,
Well, then I
and
guess
some-
that would mean that
Snowden what?
that he did something
What?
important in for the American people, right?
That's what the court's saying.
If he blew the whistle, and why wouldn't that
But
be?
but the difference is, of course, if they're thinking of dragging
See, I
him,
think he's both a hero and a traitor. I think he's a hero for breaking it to the American people,
yeah.
which he should have done, and as mostly a
On
libertarian.
that, yeah.
I praise him for that. Hey, let's face it. We need whistleblowers in the government to prevent the
you
government
do
from
not-
taking over our lives completely, and that's what a libertarian believes in. They believe in freedom, and they don't believe in big government. Now, Snowden is a traitor also because he gave all of this information away. What troubles me about this is that the damage that he's done and probably will continue to do is incalculable. And I will tell you why. Because the people that are in the know in the highest places of the agencies and the HSA say that that man has the keys to the kingdom, which means he's got far more knowledge.
He's got quite a bit of information.
Yeah, far more knowledge. Now, let's forget this thing about the interpretation of the Constitution. Let's just work on what if they brought him home? Should they bring him home? In my opinion, I don't think he should come home.
What are you going to do with him, John?
Leave him where he is
In
because
Russia? Is he?
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
is he? He's in,
yeah, he's in Russia.
Right.
Leave him where he is because, Don, do you think for 1 second that the Russians haven't gotten every piece of information out of him that they possibly could? Probably even used, waterboarding to get it out
But
of
they're
him.
not getting, no, they're not waterboarding him.
But they've got all of his
Yeah.
information already, so why should we do him the favor of bringing him home and giving him amnesty? I don't believe they should do that. What do you think?
I really believe that he should be brought home because I believe he should face the trial of the information he's released. If the information on the tapping of lines and things is correct, then I think you and I would agree that if it is unconstitutional what the government was doing, then he
is
should
unconstitutional.
then he should be cleared on that issue. What I always wonder about people like this, and I also wondered, you remember I brought up the former vice president who outed a spy.
Yeah.
And I said, we will never know on the trail of things what spy for us was taken out on a Monday morning and shot because the vice president outed a spy. So yeah, I
That was
think the vice.
stupid.
Well, I think he should have gone to trial too.
Yeah.
So if the vice president should go to trial, and I believe he should have, the former vice president.
But I don't
I would
think
say
he was
that
doing
Snowden
it.
should go to trial. He should come back home and go to trial for the information which he released.
But he's not going to come home unless he gets amnesty. Not going to go to trial.
Well, you say that, John, but the time may come when the Russians may decide to use him as a chip, with a player to be
Just
announced
send him
later.
back if they can get one of theirs.
Well, they've got everything. Yeah.
Possibly. I wouldn't rule that out. I just don't see that happening.
I think he should come back, and I think he should face the judicial system.
If it's his choice, he's not going to come back for anything short of amnesty. Because remember, in his mind, he's no traitor to anybody.
I know.
He's a hero. And so therefore, he's not going to come in here and go to court. And he's not going to trust the government either, just to have them say that they're going to give him amnesty.
No.
He's going to want some sort of assurances because guess what? It was the government that created the situation that gave him the information to go out and commit the crime in the first place. So there you are.
It is amazing with the amount of information that's so-called confidential that stays confidential. There's still much about, which you are a scholar on this, which is the Kennedy assassination, that after 20 years now, it's still privileged. In some cases, it will only be made available upon the death of all people who are connected with it one way or the other. So it is amazing how much they do keep confidential. And it does bother me that there are people who I believe, and I'm not bragging about you and I, they're not as smart as you and I. And they're in Washington, and for some reason, because they're in Washington, there are people who think they're pretty bright people. Not necessarily so. And they keep that information to themselves because they don't think you and I are able to handle that information.
Well, I don't know if
Where
it's
does
not
that
able
come
to
from?
handle it, they just want to manipulate it.
So anyway, yes, I agree with you 90% on Snowden.
Okay.
I do believe, though, that the government should work in a diligent manner to bring him
Yeah.
back. I think he should stand trial. I do believe, the old, there's one wrong equal a right, two rights equal, I think because he released that information which the courts decide we were doing things unconstitutionally, that he should be okay to release that other information? I don't think so. I think he should go to jail. I'm against capital punishment anyway, John, so that's another story. And when they talk about capital punishment, the thing that bothers me about this thing with the, to get off of it a little bit, the marathon bomber, they almost made him a hero by declaring him the man of the year. And,
I know.
And he has, he's,
Well,
he's a kid that hardly graduated from high school, hardly was ready to get bounced out of college, and then he runs around trying to
The
detonate a
press-
bomb that somebody made for him.
the press has become perverted.
Well, in that case, you
There's
and
no
I
question.
agree to agree,
Yeah.
because how they make this guy, and they take a picture, which is the one picture he took that was good.
Right.
Well, there must be 50 that are terrible. Do they put those pictures, those other 49 out of 50 pictures that are bad? No, they put this one that hasn't looked what they say a rock type star, So they're actually, the Globe had an article today, and it was based on his background and his troubles and all. I don't care about his background. I don't care about his troubles.
Yeah.
So I want to see that guy go, but I don't believe in capital punishment. He does, obviously, because he killed people. He must believe in it.
Yeah.
But that's
just since you brought it up, I know we haven't really covered it in any issue, but my stand on would be I'd approve of capital punishment.
yes, yeah. And
Under certain
there's reasons,
circumstances.
and I must say that I
Under
agree.
certain circumstances.
Well, here's my, and we all have that, John. We all have that. Well, is there anything absolute? I'll give you one short one. You got a minute? I'll give you a
Sure,
short
I got a
one.
minute. Where am I going?
Peter George was the principal at Taunton High. Michael George was his cousin. He was the baseball coach. And we were talking, and he had a kid with long hair. With Michael George, you're not playing ball. And we said, you going to let that kid play? Michael, no, he's got long hair. Doesn't get a haircut, can't play.
Oh.
And the rest, that's coaches,
Hey, the
right?
Yankees still do that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know they do.
All right.
So anyway, he said to Michael, well, let me explain this to you, Michael. The kid can hit 420.
Yeah.
He can throw a man out at first at the plate, throwing it on a line.
Yeah.
He can
From the warning
steal
track.
bases, you know,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and all these
I
things.
got you.
He can do all of those things.
Yeah.
What about that guy? And what Michael said, to every rule, there's an exception.
Yeah.
And that's what
fair.
what I think about these things. There are exceptions to every rule you can think of. There's an exception to the rule.
Now, did you? I'm sure you probably heard about this. Did you hear about the kindergarten homicide candidates over the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, the
do you
kids.
know what they were? The kindergarten homicide.
The one that you and I shared this, and the one that stuck in my mind was a little boy that kissed a little girl.
No, that's
so they
different.
suspended the boy.
That's-
and
no,
they
that
want to
one-
list him as a sexual pervert. or
Yeah,
something.
but that one was the
And he said,
10-year-old
"What is that?"
sexual harassment.
Okay.
Okay, I'm talking about the kid. We'll get to that.
Okay.
I'm talking about the kindergarten homicide candidates. You know what happened there, right? One kid. Now remember, these guys are in kindergarten. They're little kids. Took his hand,
Yeah.
aimed it at his friend in the class,
Yes.
and went like this.
Yeah, he said it was a gun. Yeah.
Gun. He got suspended for that, Dawn.
Yeah, I know.
Suspended. The other kid. Now remember, this wasn't even a rolled up piece of paper or a
Yeah.
contraption or anything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
At the same time, there was a kid somewhere who had a pastry, and he bit the pastry up so that it was in the shape of a gun. The
Clever.
pastry.
Clever.
And, and he pointed at, he got suspended. The third kid, okay, and this is all within the past few weeks.
Yeah.
The third kid, okay, pretended he had a bow and arrow,
Ah.
or more
I know.
properly called a bow,
Yeah.
and the arrow, and he takes it and he goes like this, and he aims it at his friend. He got suspended. Now, if those three,
How old are they? They're kids?
they're kindergarten kids.
Kindergarten.
Yeah, these are little tiny kids. Now, here's the adult in the bunch. 10-year-old sexual harassment.
I know.
You know why? He kissed the
That's,
hand.
that's the little boy. Yeah.
That's the little boy.
Yeah.
10 years old now,
I know.
remember. Did you see him on TV?
Oh, cute.
Looks like a little tiny thing. He can hardly talk. Anyway, he kisses the hand
Yeah.
of his
Yeah.
girlfriend.
Yeah.
Not only does he get suspended, they put on his school record sexual
I
harassment
know. So this follows him through the days of his.
of his life. Now, finally,
Yeah.
between people that were trying to make some sense of this,
Yeah.
okay, they convinced the school administrators, I use that term loosely with these
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
that this was absolutely absurd and that they shouldn't do that. Now, Don, I don't know about you, but in 4th grade, I probably kissed the hands of every girl in my class.
I had heard that about you.
Yeah.
You that guy?
And there was
down the ki-
nothing in my record.
You're that guy. I had
Nothing
heard
in
about,
my record
I
about
I
that.
said, no, nobody would kiss the hand of every girl. You
Yeah.
did that.
I did kiss a few girls' hands in my time, but that'll be another story. But anyway, so this poor kid, right?
Yes.
He goes home,
Yeah.
and he's in trouble. He knows he's in trouble.
Yeah.
They call him in.
I guess he's a little boy that
They
had been
throw-
in trouble
throw him
on other things.
out of school. Not really. He kissed another girl on the cheek once.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to watch this guy. He's got future potential. That's what they're all thinking. Anyway, so they finally get to the administrators,
Yeah.
and they say, try to make them realize how stupid this is, to be politically correct,
Yeah.
in effect.
Yeah.
And so you know what they did? They decreased his charge. It's no longer sexual harassment.
What is it now, John?
Disorderly conduct
That's like
for
a.
kissing the girl's hand. Now, Dawn,
It
you
is-
know I was a cop.
I know. I heard that, and I heard you
Brought a
carried a
few
gun.
people in
Yes.
for disorderly conduct.
Yeah.
I can,
That's what this kid's got.
I can tell you
Yeah.
that this punishment
Yeah.
doesn't fit the crime. But you know, I guess maybe another way to look at it is, I think that these school administrators,
Yeah.
there's more and more of them, they ought to go see a psychiatrist
Now,
and
you're
get
saying they're loony.
reprogrammed.
You're saying they're loony.
They are losing. They're
Loony,
nuts.
loony, not losing.
Well, they are. Don't you think that's loony? They're nuts, Dawn. Come on. Okay, I'll tell you what. Instead of that, why don't we take these 2 kindergarten kids with a pistol and the bow and arrow,
Yeah.
lock them up right now, and keep an eye on them,
And throw the key away.
and throw the key away, so that when they grow up, they won't be able to
Yeah.
perpetrate any of these crimes. What do you think of that?
I think what's
Dawn,
happened
it's driving me crazy. Isn't
well,
it
I
driving
know.
you crazy?
No, I believe they're wrong, and I believe you're right on this.
We could do
But-
a whole session
Yeah.
on politically correct here.
Yeah.
How far as politically correct
But I think
gone
many of the
out
educators are
control?
being boxed in now because if they don't take action on these
Yeah,
things.
but no common sense. Where does the law say that if a kid points his hand at you,
Yeah,
that you got to suspend him?
yeah. No.
Where's the common sense?
Common sense says
You
stop
taught
doing
all
that.
those years. Would you
Yeah.
have thrown the kid out for kissing a girl's hand like that?
I don't want to get. No, I'm not going to start making educational judgments on seniors and juniors in the high
No,
school.
okay,
Thank
all
you
right.
very
I'm
much.
talking about this particular example.
Well, I've never seen a. I've never taught at the lower grade below grade 10.
Okay, so
So
you're
I'll
not-
be
you're
careful
not
on
a-
how I answer those.
You're not a
kind of
good
things.
example. Although,
Watch
you know,
it, buddy.
yeah, you're not a good example,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't know. You hear these stories all the time.
I know. I know.
And you say to yourself, what are they thinking? You want to go to your what are they
Well,
thinking?
that's what.
What are
Yeah,
they thinking?
that's right. What are they thinking? When
What
they
are
do-
they thinking?
They're
So-
covering the letter of the law, is what they're doing, and they don't understand what Michael George said.
Yeah.
For every
That's
rule,
right.
there's an exception.
But in this case, you don't even have to make that much of an exception. I mean, what is common sense?
Well, if the question would be if the little boy kissing the little girl is bothering the little girl
On the hand.
and the girl comes home and says to her mother and father, boy, he won't stop doing that.
But
and so therefore you can take some disciplinary action. I don't say
I
that
don't
you can
believe that ever
suspend him.
happened. I don't believe that the little girl ever went home and said the boy's doing this. I think
I
that
don't
came
know.
up afterwards.
And I'll tell you another thing, John, that we believe in Massachusetts anyway. Juvenile situations are supposed to be privileged to not making it available to the general public. That information, I used to be an investigator. I would
you
go
mean
into
in
the
terms of the
courthouse.
school record?
Yeah, that's confidential, the school record.
But the school record can be open if the kid wants to get a job in government
Not
or something
juvenile,
like
not
that. The
juvenile.
FBI will do a background check. I had a background check done on me by the FBI, the state police, the local police, you name it. They went right back to the day of my birth.
But it wouldn't go in the local paper. They
No,
would not
I'm not saying that.
Yeah, but this did though.
Yeah.
And I'm saying
Okay.
what's
Oh, okay.
happening here, John, is that an awful lot of information is coming out now about juveniles that really shouldn't. We've got a rule that says that if you're a juvenile, you're privileged to do stupid things because
Well.
being young, that I've always
Well,
the dots don't quite
most
connect.
sentences end at 18 years old, no matter what you
Yeah,
do, and
my
then you start your
ill-spent
life
youth
over
was
again.
ill-spent. This is
Yeah.
what kids
Well,
say.
how about this?
So it shouldn't be made available.
What about the kid
We
that?
shouldn't even know about
What
that.
about the kid that killed the 4 people? 15-year-old kid.
Well,
drunk.
then when
The
it's
judge let him off, no time at all.
yeah,
Based upon what? Based upon now this is a new one.
what's that? John?
What did they call it? Something about
I know
privilege.
you and I. John, this is with a minute and 30. This is what you call a tease. The next time we come on, one of us, and my family humbly calls me the Google champion of the.
Oh,
the
really?
house. Yes. One of us.
Okay,
is
Google.
go- One of us is going to Google.
Okay.
And what we're talking about, people, and I'm going to bet you 9 out of every 10 persons watching this, and we've into the thousands now, John,
Yeah, I know.
as they're watching us, they know what
know
we're
that.
saying, and they can't think of the word either. A young boy did something where death resulted in what he did.
4 people.
And, yes, 4 people. And the
Drunk.
judicial system
Not
decide-
allowed to drive. No license. 15.
said he has an excuse because he grew up wealthy.
Affluency.
Now,
The
did you
judge-
pick up the word already? So I'm not going to Google it then.
No, it's affluency. It just came back to me. See, my memory
What
is
does a Google
still pretty
master
good.
do when I've got a guy like you here doing these things? I want to
No,
thank.
here's what you can Google, Don.
What?
How can they do that? When was that?
Well,
an
that's
excuse?
what next time we're going to open it up with that.
All right.
Thank you all for watching. You've been a very nice. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I can say Christmas and New Year's.
I would like also to wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy Holidays. we look forward to seeing you after the new year. Thank you.
This was a good show, John. We did good.
I think so, doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Merry Christmas,
Yeah,
John.
you too.
We do. We do all right.
Yeah.
We spoil them, John.